You know exactly how the American dream is supposed to work right now. You pack all your belongings into a rented van, you move to a massive coastal tech hub, and you eagerly hand over 50% of your monthly paycheck to a corporate landlord for a drywall box that smells heavily of bleach. You deal with the gridlock traffic, you pay $9 for a standard iced coffee, and you thank the local economy for the privilege of barely surviving. That is the established game. But what if I told you the game is fundamentally broken? What if I told you that there are actual American cities completely desperate for your tax dollars? So desperate, in fact, that they are literally offering you a giant stack of cash just to cross their city limits and change your mailing address. You clicked on this video because you are tired of the hustle and you want to know if these municipal bribery schemes are actually real. Spoiler alert, they are entirely real, and the math behind them is absolutely fascinating. We are sitting right in the middle of 2026, and the remote work revolution did not just change how we do our jobs. It fundamentally altered the value of human geography. It turned remote workers into highly mobile, incredibly valuable economic assets. For the last century, if you wanted a high-paying career, you were physically chained to a mega city. You had to go where the corporate headquarters were located. But now that the laptop class is completely untethered, regional economic development boards across the Midwest and the South are quietly panicking. They looked at their shrinking populations, they looked at their aging tax bases, and they realized that the only way to effectively compete with the gravitational pull of Miami or Austin is to run a massive, highly legalized geographical bribery scheme. Outsiders look at these cash incentive programs and they immediately assume it has to be a complete scam. They think a town offering you $15,000 must be an apocalyptic wasteland with zero internet, collapsing infrastructure, and feral raccoons running the local city council. They are completely misunderstanding the raw economics at play here. These towns are not paying you because they are failing or desperate for charity. They are paying you because importing a remote worker who makes $80,000 a year is the absolute cheapest, most efficient way to inject outside cash directly into their local grocery stores, their restaurants, and their property tax base. It is a highly calculated municipal math equation. They know that if they hand you $10,000 today, you are going to generate $50,000 in local economic velocity over the next 5 years. Right now, you are the winning variable in their spreadsheet. Are you currently working a remote job from a tiny, overpriced apartment in a city that completely drains your bank account? Drop a comment below and let me know exactly how much cash it would take to convince you to pack your bags and move to a state you have never even visited. Let us get some price discovery going in the comments section. Now, let us count down the 16 places in America that will literally write you a check to move there. Number 16. Alaska. If you want to get paid just for successfully surviving the winter, welcome to the last frontier. Alaska has the absolute oldest and most famous incentive program in the entire country. It is called the Permanent Fund Dividend, and it pays residents an average of roughly $1,600 a year just for existing within the state borders and intending to stay indefinitely. The culture here is built entirely on extreme self-reliance and a deep respect for nature. You are moving to a place where your neighbor might be a professional bush pilot. Your weekend plans will probably involve actively avoiding a grizzly bear, and the community bonds are incredibly tight because everyone is collectively fighting the elements. The brutal trade-off is that the cost of shipping basic groceries to the edge of the Arctic Circle is completely unhinged. You will likely take that entire dividend check and immediately spend it on a few gallons of milk, some fresh produce, and a heavy-duty snow shovel. It is the only state in the country that pays you an annual survival bonus, which you will absolutely need to make it through February. Number 15. Texarkana. Arkansas's Texarkana is a city straddling two entirely different states, which is incredibly convenient if you enjoy confusing your GPS on a daily basis. The Patterson-Troik Foundation is aggressively recruiting new professionals by offering targeted relocation cash and financial perks just to smooth out the initial moving process, and bring fresh talent into the local economy. You are getting a classic, deeply authentic Southern lifestyle. The area is surrounded by dense pine forests, beautiful lakes, and a community that treats Friday night high school football like a highly organized religion. It offers a very slow, highly predictable pace of life where the cost of housing is beautifully detached from national inflation trends. The obvious downside is that you are living squarely in a geographical region where the summer humidity is so incredibly thick in August. Now you can practically drink the air. It is a fantastic place to start over and build wealth, assuming your hair naturally cooperates with absolute total moisture. Number 14. Mattoon, Illinois. Mattoon is a quiet town that fully realizes you are completely exhausted by gridlock traffic, constant noise, and paying $20 for a mediocre artisan sandwich. Local incentive programs, like Move to Mattoon, are quietly floating cash and community integration perks to pull remote workers into a housing market where you can easily buy a solid, historic home for well under $150,000. The lifestyle here is heavily agricultural and intensely peaceful. You are getting an endless horizon of cornfields, an incredibly cheap overall cost of living, and an absolute guarantee of peace and quiet. The local community is highly engaged, offering a safe, predictable environment that is perfect for raising a family on a strict budget. The catch is that if you ever suddenly crave the chaotic energy of a massive city, you are going to have to get in your car and drive a few hours just to reach Chicago or Indianapolis. It is the ultimate retreat for anyone whose dream life resembles a witness protection program. Number 13. Southwest Michigan. Southwest Michigan is a place that aggressively markets itself as the Hamptons of the Midwest, except the people here actually know how to change a tire and shovel a driveway. The Move to Michigan initiative is actively throwing highly competitive cash packages at out-state remote workers just to get them to settle permanently near the lakefront. You get access to stunning, windswept beaches along Lake Michigan, fantastic local craft breweries, and an outdoor recreation scene that absolutely rivals any expensive coastal state. The summer months here are genuinely spectacular, offering a resort town aesthetic without the crushing pretension of a traditional wealthy enclave. The massive trade-off is the legendary lake effect snow. This weather phenomenon will routinely bury your driveway under 2 feet of heavy powder while you are sleeping, forcing you into early morning cardio sessions just to get your car out of the garage. They are paying you to move there, but you will definitely earn every single penny of that money during the month of January. Number 12. Bemidji, Minnesota. Bemidji is practically a suburb of Canada, and they are fully leaning into their rugged northern aesthetic to attract a new wave of digital talent. Through the 218 Relocate program, the city is offering targeted financial support, teleworking stipends, and community networking perks to convince you that freezing temperatures are actually a fun lifestyle choice. The culture here is heavily dominated by massive flannel shirts, aggressive ice fishing, and a deep, genuine appreciation for the dense pine forests and pristine lakes that surround the town. The people are incredibly polite, heavily invested in the outdoors, and fully adapted to the extreme environment. The downside is that the winter temperatures routinely drop to terrifying levels that will physically shatter a cheap plastic snow shovel. It is a wonderful, highly scenic place to live, provided your blood is entirely composed of automotive antifreeze. Number 11. Richmond, Indiana. Richmond is sitting right on the Ohio border, quietly throwing money at anyone with a laptop, a stable internet connection, and a desire to escape the rat race. Local economic packages are currently offering a program value of around $7,500, mixing direct cash with local community perks just to get you to permanently change your zip code. You get a very classic, beautifully preserved historic Midwestern downtown, plenty of room to breathe, and a local community that is genuinely excited to see a new face at the grocery store. The cost of living is so remarkably low that your coastal salary will make you feel like local royalty. The trade-off is that the local entertainment options are heavily restricted. Your Friday night excitement might realistically peak at a trip to the local hardware store or a quiet dinner at a family-owned diner. It is a fantastic place to stockpile cash in your savings account, mostly because there's absolutely nothing expensive to spend it on. Number 10. Salina, Kansas. Salina is sitting right in the middle of the Great Plains, actively attempting to buy its way into the remote work revolution. They are currently advertising relocation packages valued near $5,700, heavily leaning on cash incentives to convince remote workers to sign a local lease or buy a home. The lifestyle here is pure unadulterated Kansas. You get massive unobstructed skies, an incredibly low crime rate, and a community that moves at a remarkably slow and steady pace. It is a place where neighbors actually know each other, and the local schools are deeply supported by the municipal tax base. The primary downside is that the local geography is flatter than a pancake, and the summer thunderstorms will occasionally sound like a runaway freight train driving directly through your living room. If you enjoy watching the weather approach from 40 miles away, Salina is perfectly ready to cut you a check. Number 9. Columbus, Georgia. Columbus is a charming, historic southern city that finally decided it was completely tired of watching everyone move to Atlanta. The city is offering a relocation package valued at over $8,700, specifically targeting remote workers who want access to a revitalized riverfront and a lower cost of living. You get an incredible urban whitewater rafting scene right in the middle of the downtown district, highly affordable housing options, and a fantastic culinary culture that is heavily influenced by the massive local military base. The city has invested heavily in creating a vibrant, walkable core that feels far more expensive than it actually is. The catch is that you are deeply embedded in the Deep South, meaning the summer heat index is going to physically assault you the moment you step outside your front door in July. They will happily pay you to move there, but a good portion of that incentive money will immediately go straight to your aggressive air conditioning bill. Number 8. Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Fond du Lac sits right at the bottom of Lake Winnebago, and they are using cold hard cash to convince you that Wisconsin is the absolute future of remote work. They are dangling a program value of $9,500, which includes direct cash and heavy local integration perks to get out-of-state workers to brave the northern winters. The culture is heavily centered around the lake ecosystem, meaning your neighbors will likely own a boat, a snowmobile, and an encyclopedic knowledge of local cheese curds. It is a deeply authentic, hard-working community where Friday night fish fries and local taverns serve as the primary social hubs. The downside is that the local economy is still heavily industrial, and if you are not fully accustomed to the intense, localized drinking culture of a dark Wisconsin winter, you might experience a bit of a shock. It is an incredible financial deal, assuming your liver and your winter coat are fully prepared for the transition. Number 7. The Shoals, Alabama. The Shoals area of Alabama has a legendary world-famous musical history, and now they are trying to write a brand new hit song using municipal tax dollars. The Remote Shoals program is aggressively throwing $10,000 in direct cash at qualified applicants who make over $52,000 a year working remotely for out-of-state companies. You get a beautiful, incredibly scenic setting along the Tennessee River, access to historic recording studios, and a deeply creative, soulful southern atmosphere that is incredibly welcoming to outsiders. The local cost of living is brilliantly low, allowing you to buy a massive home near the water for the price of a coastal studio apartment. The trade-off is that you are living in a relatively isolated pocket of the state. If you want to fly internationally or catch a massive arena concert tour, you are going to be driving quite a while to reach a major hub. They are literally handing you 10 grand to listen to good music by the river, which is arguably the best municipal policy ever invented. Number 6. Noblesville, Indiana. Noblesville is a rapidly growing, highly affluent suburb of Indianapolis that decided to aggressively fast-track its own economic gentrification. They are currently offering a massive program value of $15,000 in cash and community perks specifically designed for remote workers willing to secure a local address. You get a picture-perfect historic downtown square, elite public schools, and a highly polished suburban environment that feels completely insulated from any urban chaos. It is the exact type of town where every lawn is perfectly manicured and the local coffee shops look like they belong in an architectural magazine. The massive catch here is that housing prices in Noblesville have already spiked dramatically due to local demand. That $15,000 incentive is likely just going to barely cover your closing costs on a $500,000 house. It is a brilliant strategy by the local government to essentially rebate your property taxes right back into your pocket while keeping their demographics highly elevated. Number 5. Owensboro. Kentucky. Owensboro is a town that relies heavily on bluegrass music and bourbon, and they are now adding remote worker cash to that already winning formula. They are actively utilizing local incentives to pull people into a housing market where you can easily find a beautiful historic home for well under $200,000. The lifestyle is heavily centered around the banks of the Ohio River. You get world-class barbecue, massive summer music festivals, and a deeply authentic Kentucky culture that absolutely refuses to take itself too seriously. It is a place that celebrates local traditions while slowly modernizing its downtown riverfront to attract younger families. The downside is that the local corporate job market is relatively thin, making this a place strictly for people who bring their own income from the outside. If you lose your remote job, finding a local replacement that pays the same coastal salary will be virtually impossible. But for now, you can sit on your porch, drink elite bourbon, and let the local economic council heavily subsidize your mortgage. If you are actually considering taking one of these cash deals and crossing state lines, do me a favor and hit that like button to appease the algorithm. Make sure you read the fine print on these programs because these cities fully expect you to stick around for at least a year before you walk away with the money. Let us get back to the final 4. Number 4. Hutchinson, Kansas. Hutchinson is pulling out the absolute heavy artillery in the municipal bribery wars. They are currently advertising a massive $15,500 program value, specifically loading up on cash and integration benefits to heavily lure in remote tech workers and young families who are entirely priced out of the coastal markets. The town is actually famous for its massive underground salt mines and an incredibly impressive space museum, giving it a quirky, highly unique vibe that you do not usually find in rural Kansas. The local housing stock is highly affordable, meaning that massive incentive check goes an incredibly long way toward building real equity. The brutal trade-off is that the wind never actually stops blowing, ever. You will spend your entire life chasing your plastic garbage cans down the street and aggressively tying down your patio furniture. They are offering you $15,000 to live there, but you are going to spend a lot of time securing loose items in your backyard. Number 3. Morgantown, West Virginia. West Virginia looked at their gorgeous, completely empty mountains and decided to launch a highly coordinated financial ambush on out-of-state outdoor enthusiasts. The Ascend West Virginia program is a total masterpiece, offering $12,000 in direct cash alongside a massive package of free outdoor recreation gear and high-speed co-working space access. You are moving directly into a rugged, stunning Appalachian college town where you can literally close your laptop and be whitewater rafting or rock climbing in 20 minutes. It is an absolute paradise for anyone who hates the concrete jungle and wants to spend their weekends completely off the grid. The downside is that the local geography is completely chaotic. The roads are a twisting, undulating maze of blind curves, and the winter driving conditions are absolutely terrifying if you do not own a reliable 4-wheel drive vehicle. They are basically paying you $12,000 to become a mountain goat, which is honestly a fantastic career pivot. Number 2. Topeka, Kansas. Topeka has built one of the most aggressive, heavily funded relocation schemes in the entire American Midwest. The Choose Topeka program is offering up to $15,000 for home purchase assistance or $10,000 if you decide to rent, specifically targeting people who want to put down permanent roots and integrate into the city. The lifestyle offers massive amounts of room to breathe, a highly affordable cost of living, and a surprisingly robust local arts and brewery scene driven heavily by the recent influx of out-of-state newcomers. The city is actively trying to reinvent itself, pouring money into public spaces and community events to keep the new remote workers entertained. The catch is that Topeka is heavily anchored by state government bureaucracy, meaning the local culture can occasionally feel a bit dry, political, and institutional during the dark winter months. They are literally handing you the down payment for a house, provided you do not mind living right next to the state legislature. Number 1. Tulsa, Oklahoma, and finally, we reached the undisputed heavyweight champion of the remote worker relocation game. Welcome to Tulsa. The Tulsa Remote Program basically invented this entire economic model. They are offering a clean, straightforward $10,000 in cash, plus a free membership to a massive, highly polished local co-working space to keep you from going insane in your living room. The culture here is a bizarrely perfect blend of historic Art Deco architecture, old oil money history, and a newly imported wave of highly caffeinated coastal tech workers. The city features a hip downtown district, an elite multi-million-dollar public park system, and a completely reinvented local economy that caters directly to the laptop class. The primary downside is that the summers are completely brutal, and the state politics can be a massive culture shock if you are moving straight out of a hyper-progressive bubble like San Francisco or Brooklyn. Tulsa basically proved that if you throw enough cash at unhappy coastal renters, they will happily build a thriving tech hub right in the middle of Tornado Alley. At the end of the day, these programs expose a very funny reality about the modern American economy. We are no longer chained to a specific zip code just to earn a decent living. Geography is now completely negotiable. These towns are not handing out charity and they are not desperate. They are making a highly calculated business transaction. They give you $10,000, and in return, you buy a house, pay local property taxes, and spend your coastal salary at their local diners, breweries, and coffee shops. It is a brilliant, entirely logical municipal strategy. But you have to ask yourself, are you actually willing to trade the absolute chaos and the premium amenities of a massive coastal city for a quiet life, a slow pace, and a giant novelty check? Are these relocation programs the actual future of American urban development, or are they just a desperate, temporary band-aid for shrinking towns? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Make sure you hit subscribe for more brutally honest geographic data, read the fine print before you sign a municipal contract, and never move to a city without checking the local humidity index first.